70% of businesses will fail after one generation.
How many people are postponing their joy, postponing their peace?
Absolutely. People buy out of fear than they do out of any other emotion. Return on intention actually creates better return on investment. This entire lie in the US that we have about retirement, about I'm just gonna, ride off into the sunset and play golf all the time.
A simple action step. We're gonna give it to you right now. No cost. We're gonna give this away to them free. Can I make a free offer?
Go ahead, make a free offer.
At the beginning of the year, we started this podcast and the topic was words of the year.
Yep.
And we dated back about, I think, 7 years ago, and we landed on 2025. And the word for this year is launch.
Launch. Yep.
And over the past couple of weeks, it's been really insightful and helpful for me. You have taken myself and the rest of our Kingdom ROI team through a series of just clarifying vision, clarifying strategy, and really just saying, here's where we are and where we're going. So I wanted to hear from you, Eric. Why is that so valuable, and how does that relate to the word of the year, which is launch?
Well, launch means, in one sense, we're going somewhere, right? And so the most dangerous thing I think you could do as a leader is go somewhere alone. So we've got an entire team, and what I started recognizing accidentally, it was a beautiful gift, but it was in the middle of a mistake, or not a mistake, just realizing there's an error, that I recognized that I had cast this beautiful vision that I was really, really clear on, but I'm not sure anybody else was as clear on everything that we were doing. And so, we've doubled our staff since January, or maybe since December of last year.
Yeah.
But the last 6 months, we've doubled the amount of people who work here. And I just had this assumption that everybody knew what everybody did. We've got different divisions of the company and different responsibilities. And it was a recognition that not everybody knew what everybody else did. I think people were pretty clear about what they were doing, but they weren't clear about how everybody was working together. And I was sitting in a meeting with 3 of our new hires, all under 30. And we were having a conversation, and one of them was bold enough. I love that he asked the question. He's like, "Can you tell me our why?" And I was a little taken aback. I'm like, "What do you mean, tell you our why? You know our why." He's like, "I don't know our why." And so I looked at another one of the guys. I was like, "Well, you tell him our why." He's like, "I don't know our why." I'm like, "Okay, wait. There's a third guy in the room." I'm like, "You tell him." And he's like, "I don't know our why." And it's one of those moments as a leader where you're like, "Oh no," right? I have messed up. I thought that I was doing a really good job communicating. And so I just took a step back. And I was like, you know what, we're going to take this down to the very base, and we're going to take this down to the very beginning. And I started with our why, and then I started breaking down our entire business. And I was like, wait a minute, we've got all these business structures, and I don't know that anyone, maybe even you, have ever seen all the business structures together and how everything fit and who works for which organization and why each organization exists and what they do. And so it was more about, if we were going to launch and go, then every person working in every department has a responsibility. They have a duty. That all are taking us towards this ultimate goal of helping families achieve 100 years of abundance and impact. And everybody's working on that in a different way. And what I also thought was really interesting, it also made me sit down and think really hard about why. And at the end of the day, what it really came down to, and I told the people who were there and I told everybody in the training, is like, do we love people enough to A, meet them where they are, but B, show them that they may not be headed where they think they're headed?
Wow.
If you want 100 plus years of abundance and impact, what if you're being manipulated to go somewhere else? And do we have the courage to step into that? Because sometimes that's not comfortable. You don't want to tell anybody, hey, this may not work out the way that you wanted it to, or this may not go the way you thought it would. And do we love them enough and love their family for 100? Can we love them out through that vision? And at the same time, do we love ourselves enough to go, hey, we may be on this journey of talking about something that not a whole lot of other people are talking about, but it doesn't mean we're going to do it perfectly either. Right. So can we take a step back, and what do we learn on our own journey that we can then share with others who are on the same journey.
Yeah.
Along the way.
And that's so powerful. And I want to say this to you, Eric. Since you've been sharing this vision with our team, I'm sensing a greater level of unity.
Yeah, I would agree.
A greater level of clarity. And really, people are empowered to go and share this message with other people. So even though, I'm with you a lot, we do the podcast together, so I get to hear the vision a little bit more often. But even for me, I heard things and pieces of the puzzle that I didn't have, and I had an aha moment. And I think it was John Maxwell or something. I heard him say, he talked about how vision leaks.
Yeah.
Vision leaks. So it's not like you pour in the vision once a year and that picture just stays full and you don't have to worry about revisiting it. But as soon as you start pouring it in, there's little holes.
Yep.
So whenever you, as the leader, the visionary leader of our family of companies, comes in and say, hey, I just want to reiterate and recommunicate and clarify some things, it's so helpful to us. Like, it's a total win. And then when it comes to this topic of advocating for families, and speaking truth and helping people see that, what you think is leading you in one direction, you may be prey to this unconscious manipulation, or what you coined the greatest wealth heist in the history of man.
Yeah.
This $80 to $100 trillion that are about to change hands. If you're not careful, you could be robbed blind. And part of that is because of the ROI lie. What is the ROI lie?
Yeah, this entire idea that we've all been sold that greater return on investment is going to solve all our problems. It's going to make everything better. If I could just make more money and follow this along, right? I'm going to point you some different places around society that this shows up, right? When I get this raise, I'm going to ...
Yes.
When I get that inheritance, I'm going to ... How much money do the states and everyone else make selling lottery tickets? When I win the lottery, I'm going to ... Right? And at the end of the day, more money doesn't solve the issues that we think it solves. Actually, what I found, and let's go back to, I think we've talked about this before. Let's revisit what's the prompt. What is the lie? The lie is, when I have more, I'm going to feel more abundant. And because I feel more abundant, then I will finally be at peace. All these money worries will be gone. I'll be able to sleep at night. I'm not going to worry about, anything. And because of that, now I can finally give back and make a difference in my community. When I make more money, I'm going to give back and make more difference. I cannot tell you how many people I've talked to that, like, they're waiting on this return on investment before they're going to go invest or make a difference in other people.
This is huge. And I never thought about it this way. But when you're saying this, what I think about is how many people are postponing their joy, postponing their peace,
absolutely,
postponing their abundance because of the return on investment lie.
Yeah.
That when it happens, and then what we've explored in other conversations is that when you live with that mindset, it actually never happens.
Correct.
So even when you get more, it's all of a sudden and almost immediately, what's next?
No, that's not enough, right? There's not a finish line. There's never any point that you have enough.
Yeah, which is that scarcity, that fear, that scarcity, that protection that we're talking about. And I love this season of our business because it seemed like you're giving it all away, Eric. Like all this, like the revelations, the truth that some would think that, oh no, this is our secret sauce. We shouldn't share this. We more than ever are in front of microphones and cameras. Yeah. And just getting all this. Tell us the why behind that, and how does that relate to this abundant mindset and how it's a return on intention?
I'm trying to remember who I was talking to yesterday, because somebody was like, oh, we got to be careful about what we share. I'm like, go share all of it, right? And there's the mindset is so strong. This, if I just had a little bit more, like, I don't think we can preach it loud. If somebody else wants to come preach it, come join me in preaching it. I don't think we can say it loud enough, because the mindset that we're fighting against is so strong. Like, we need more voices saying it than us, right? Yes. But the other thing is, there's so much work to be done, because the lie of return on investment is that I'm going to have more abundance, peace, and impact. if I have more, but that's not what it gives you. You kind of skipped over it. But I mean, the more you have, and I've watched it happen to me when I've been in the wrong place, and I've watched it happen to so many people. When more money comes in, it actually creates this scarcity, like, oh no, there's not enough. I'll use this kind of an example. Have you ever gotten a bonus or an extra amount of money, and like you were late, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, but before you know it, you got it, and like it was gone before you could do half the things that were on the list, but it was gone?
Yes.
But so that you got more, and then all of a sudden scarcity somehow kind of came into it. Your behavior betrayed what you initially intended to do. The scarcity behavior did. And so then you look at that and go, oh my goodness, I made more, but it's not enough. So then that leads to fear. Like, so I finally got that bonus. I finally got that promotion. But we're still scarce. I thought that was going to solve my problem. It didn't. Now I'm scarce about what I have. And I'm fearful that, okay, well, if that wasn't enough, what am I going to do? I got to hit the lever again. I got to get more. I got to get more, which then just leads you to constantly trying to protect even what you have. And what we have to get to the root of is this idea is that abundance is a mindset, right? And it comes down to, this is why it's so important. We talk to a lot of people. It's like, when you come in here, you don't have to share our faith, but I'm going to tell you what, it's going to make it a whole lot easier for you if you do. And here's why, is because when inside of our faith and what we believe is that God is a God of abundance, and that he created us in his image, and so that we have access to his abundance because of who he is, and that he will take care of his children. That mindset will shift you.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I find that throw people off about what we do. We don't just optimize. We help renew the mind.
That's it.
We address it at the core of how are we thinking about life? How are we thinking about relationships? How are we thinking about the impact and the opportunities that we have? And that's the Kingdom ROI way. That's the Kingdom Return on Intention way. There has to be a transition from the scarcity, fear, and protection to abundance, peace, and impact. And what I'm finding, Eric, is that even that leaks sometimes. Like you said, even in our personal lives, we have to check ourselves sometimes on a daily basis.
Oh, yeah.
And say, okay, what am I thinking as a son who is secure? And God is providing for me, and his economy is never in recession.
That's right.
His economy never lacks. Or am I thinking like an orphan who's constantly worried about what's going to happen next? Am I going to be able to provide? Is what has been given to me going to be taken away?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and those are very real mindsets that we have to face. So this return on intention mindset, it really is part a psychology of addressing this human condition that we need for security and acceptance.
Yeah, that's so good.
Security and acceptance. So as we talk about the Great Wealth Heist, I want to, because you've been doing this now for over almost 2 decades. Give us some examples of the how. We talked about the who, in this unconscious manipulation that's happening with banks, with some financial professionals. And we want to reiterate, they are not the enemy.
They are not.
They're not intentionally and maliciously trying to rob wealth, but there is a greater system at play. And the current of this system is so strong that if you're not cultivating these mindsets that we're talking about, you can easily get swept away. So can you give us a couple of just examples of how these professionals are getting swept into the system and how it practically affects families? What does this loss of wealth looks like?
Well, so I'm going to work at this a little bit backwards, and then we can kind of unpack this. But the whole industry is built off of providing a solution. Okay. At the end of the day, the institutions don't make money. The advisors don't make money unless there's a transaction of a solution. Okay. So I need you to buy a product. I need you to make a decision towards a legal document. I need you to make a decision towards a tax strategy. And in the ROI method, we call that the optimization. And so everything is about, how do I get you to optimization as quickly as possible? Because from a profit standpoint, that's how I get to profitability as quickly as possible. The other thing that we've learned about human psychology is people buy at a greater propensity out of fear than they do out of any other emotion. So you go back to the emotions of the return on investment method of scarcity, fear, and protection. The protection and fear are two elements that are great motivators that lead to profitability. Okay? So it's already a system aligned with this idea of, if I want to make more profits, and there is a lot of, I think making money is a great thing. I think everybody should make money. But at the end of the day, if the motivation is primarily just to make money, or what is the bottom line, which seems to be then you start to see this vicious cycle that the businesses are already operating in a scarcity cycle of how they sell. And then they've got to have professionals who are working underneath them, who are working under a psychology of scarcity, fear, and protection. And they're selling to people who are in scarcity, fear, and protection, right? So we end up in this vicious cycle of, we're so focused on optimization. And you're probably listening to this. I was like, well, yeah, no, I just met with my guy and we bought this insurance policy, or we just did this trust, or we just did this thing. And what I kept finding is people wanting to go, so now I'm done. I want to be done with that. I want to put that behind me. I want that part to be over. I got a will done. Okay, great. I got that done. Or if you're a business owner, we were just came out of a meeting that 3/4 of business owners don't have any type of succession plan.
I'm not surprised.
Okay. But say you're one who's that quarter. Oh no, I've got a succession plan. I'm done. I've checked that box. And if optimization was the only thing, then we wouldn't see the statistics failures that we see, which the statistics are there, right? 70% of businesses will fail after one generation. 70% of family wealth will fail after one generation. 90% will fail after 3 generations. And the statistics have been around, like this is not brand new. The statistics have been around for a long time, which led me to then go and just ask the question of why. We were talking about this yesterday in training. I don't remember where I was talking about. One of my favorite phrases.
Lots of conversations are happening here at Kingdom ROI.
Somebody asked me the question. They said, your favorite phrase is, if it's not broke, break it. What do you mean by that? And it was just, I'm not content. If somebody says, hey, 90% of family wealth fails after one generation, that's just the way it is, and moves on, I'm like, that sounds terrible. Then what we're doing must not be working, which then leads me on a journey of saying, okay, so what might work? Or what works for the 10%? And why isn't anybody doing anything about it? And so that kind of led to our discovery of the ROI method. But at the end of the day, the unconscious manipulation, I think, is built up in this idea that people like to buy the optimization, and we make more money when we sell the optimization. So if you like to buy and we like to sell, why wouldn't we just take you there? And it's that unintended consequence that falls out of it. And the unintended manipulation is that everyone is so short-sighted. I'm going to sell you because I can make profit right now. And what we created the ROI method for, it's not just a tagline of 100 plus years. It is really a mindset and a direction. I don't want to know what's going to happen during your lifetime. I don't just want to know what's going to happen in your kid's lifetime. I want to look at what is going to happen 100 plus years out of this transaction that you did. Just because you optimized, is it really going to create what you think it will? And the more and more I looked at it, the more broken it was, which was created the R and the I, we can get more into, but you were wanting to talk about the O, was just, the O's not working. That would be my statement is, and no one else I'm talking to is asking why it's not working. And I know why. I'm going to tell you why. Because by the time the problems surface, I won't be here. By the time the problems show up, mom and dad will most likely be gone. The company that sold, the people who were leading the company at that time, they'll probably be gone. And the advisors who sold it, they'll be gone too. Yeah. So the only time they're going to see and they're going to get the reward for what they've done is during that lifetime. So long as it works during that lifetime and it looks good during that lifetime, then pat ourselves on the back, we've won. Dirty little secret. It doesn't always work during the lifetime either. One of my that's not my favorite. It is a very, very common, there's a legal strategy that allows business owners to move wealth down to their next generation, could be kids or grandkids, move it to another generation. And inside of that strategy, especially if you've got a business that you think is going to grow a whole lot, it's a great little strategy because you move it while it's not worth a whole lot. And then as it grows, it doesn't grow inside of your estate. It grows inside of your kids, your grandkids' estate. I've seen this done over and over again. Here, what's the problem? If you grow it too much, you can have young kids that are worth much more than you ever wanted to be. You could rob them of motivation. You could rob them of any desire to do anything because you've made them so wealthy during their lifetime. And the advisors would be like, no, that's a great tax strategy. That's a great estate strategy because you moved it out of your estate to someone else. And from a legal and planning, so many times I've seen people go, that's a great idea. And I was on the phone with a young father maybe about 5 years ago. And he was like, yeah, I was talking to my attorney and he was saying, I really ought to do this because I've got this company that's about to explode. And I said, okay, you can do that. All of his kids were under the age of 5. I said, when do you think this company's going to explode? Oh, probably in the next 5 to 10 years. Okay. So are you okay with the fact, and how much do you think it's going to be worth? I mean, we're working in, let's go through. Okay. So I think this is this. Okay. Are you okay with the fact that your 12-year-old will more than likely be worth 10 times what you're worth right now if all of this happens? No, I'm not okay with that. Okay. Well, if everything you say is about to happen, that's about what you're about to create.
Wow.
But no one tells them that part. It's a great tax strategy. It's a great estate strategy. Why wouldn't you want to do this? Wouldn't you want to save on taxes? Wouldn't you want to save on estate? Yeah, but I may ruin my kids. Oh, well, I'm not talking about that. That's on you. But it's that unintended consequence. And there's unintended consequences in all sorts of transactions. That's just one example. There's unintended consequences in all sorts of transactions. And nobody talks about it. But it's good optimization.
My gosh, this is powerful and profound. So I just want to expose myself to everybody. I am not the financial expert. Eric is, but the way that he explains this, it makes it so real because the loss of wealth is not the bigger issue.
That's right.
That's painful. Absolutely, that's painful. You know, if you've gone through bankruptcy or have experienced that or divorce or whatever, that's painful. But what's more painful is the destruction, the unintentional destruction or unintentional consequences that impact our most valuable relationships, the spouse, the children. So what I hear you saying from an uninitiated perspective is that it's dangerous just to check the box of optimization.
Yeah.
Like, I know I need a will. I have a will, check. All right, I know I need some type of structure, maybe a trust or something. Okay, I have that, check.
Yeah.
So what happens with that, I remember I listened to a podcast by Craig Rochelle years ago, and he says, what's important to you, you're willing to evaluate and reevaluate. You know, so what you're saying, what I hear you saying, Eric, is not just about checking the boxes, but it's about getting clarity on what you truly want for your relationships in the future. And most of the times, business owners, you can speak to this, business owners are so busy building and accelerating and doing that they don't even have the time or even maybe even the skill set or the know-how to how to evaluate these things properly.
Yeah.
To see things through. Like, what does this mean for my wife? What does it really mean for my kids? So talk about the importance of advocacy and how we step in as Kingdom ROI to provide that.
Yeah, well, I mean, advocacy gets to be really important on two fronts because most of the time, the assumption of the business owner is, well, my attorney, he's my advocate. Or my CPA, he's my advocate. Or the investment advisor, he's my advocate. And if they're simply helping you optimize, that doesn't mean they're advocating. And again, it could be, and let's hear this really, really good. It could be a great financial strategy. It could be great optimization, but it's got unintended consequences. So who's the advocate and what you end up becoming your own advocate. Okay, well, guess what? You don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And as our role in really becoming someone's advocate was to step in and go, okay, this optimization may work, but let's take a look and see what this means inside of what you intend for 100 plus years down the road and the relationships that matter to you and the people that matter to you today and 100 years from now. And let's make sure that the optimization actually matches that. And in our advocacy, one of the funny things that we find, we have something we call an abundance and impact map, where we go in and we help people actually look at what is happening. And Chris, you know the statistic, but 85 to 90% of the time when we draw that map for business owners and people and step in from an advocate standpoint, they're like, that's not what I thought was going to happen. Or that's not what I wanted to have happen.
And literally every meeting that I've been a part of, it's been that response.
Yeah.
The eyes get big, like, wait a minute. That's not supposed to happen that way.
Right. But why? Because it's great optimization, but it's not paying attention to the things that matter. And there's not been an advocate in there. Now, here's what's been really, really cool about advocacy, because you've also seen this side of it. When we've come alongside them as an advocate and we've helped them address 100 plus years from now, where do we want to go? Okay, here's where we want to go. Okay, and what are the relationships and who are the people that matter to you? Fantastic. Then now let's go optimize based off of these two facts. So what I don't want anyone to hear is I'm not against optimization. Right. I am for great tax strategy.
And we have some of the best optimizers.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Absolutely. What is cool about our team is they optimize based on advocacy, not on, is this the most profitable thing for us to sell, or the most profitable thing for us to do right now? Or is this great tax strategy for today, but it may ruin your family down the road? But what's been crazy, and you've seen this, is like the results are better.
Yes.
You're getting better outcomes. The joke I make is return on intention actually creates better return on investment. And we've got case studies and statistics and everything that show that. And I am all for really, really good return on investment with the right heart.
Yes.
With the right blessing that sits on the other side of that. I want you to have greater return on investment, but I want you to have that with blessing, not with burden and misery.
Yeah. What I've been enjoying seeing is when a client comes to work with us and they experience this level of advocacy and they grow with us. They grow in their mindset, and then all of a sudden, even the plan that was set in place initially begins to take a new form and shape. That reevaluation, because number one, God has brought even more abundance. The business has grown in an unexpected pace, and not because of return on investment focus, but because of a return on intention focus. And then, quite honestly, there are also some things that change relationally. Maybe there's a child that is not living with the greatest wisdom. And could, having abundance or taking this even living inheritance can cause more destruction in their lives than not. And that's the power of advocacy and reevaluation. Our team asks a lot of questions.
Yeah, they do.
Every meeting, it's reviewing ideal outcomes. Here's what you said that you wanted. Here's where things are today. Has this changed? And as people grow, as families grow, as businesses grow and scale, these plans become dynamic and they shift. And it's important to have an advocate that's so in tune with what's going on in your situation that they can update the optimization.
That's right.
Can you give some examples on that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think one of the things you go back to, a lot of business owners, there's like, I want this to be done. I'm done. I'm finished. But I mean, we work with business owners and people who are creators. And so the advocacy, not only of the plan, it is uncanny to me. If I were to sit down with someone and show them our case studies, I always tell people, I was like, these case studies look great. I just need to confess to you, none of these case studies are right. And people are like, what do you mean none of these case studies are right? Well, this is what we originally proposed. And then what we find is that almost every single time God does even more, because they get aligned with a plan that is actually blessing kingdom and not about just accumulating for the sake of accumulation. So that's the first thing that we kind of see happen. But the other thing from an advocacy standpoint on an ongoing basis is, I've got a new business idea. I've got a new project I want to do. I've got this other thing that we're looking at. Great. Let us come alongside as your advocate and make sure that as you're putting that new project in place, or you're doing this, or you're making that shift, or you're thinking about bringing one of your children into the business, or whatever that's happening, that from an advocate standpoint, we're still looking 100 years out and helping you go, hey, here are the potential landmines that still exist. And here's how we would recommend you optimize that to create this next piece that you're stepping into. But I have yet to meet, this entire lie in the US that we have about retirement, about I'm just going to, ride off into the sunset and play golf all the time or something like that. Most of the people we work with, I don't know anybody that does that. They're creators and they're constantly creating. And so the need for the advocate to stay in and continue to work with them is the fact that it helps them create even more. And a creator, I think it frees them up to go do what they do best, is create, not to have to think about the structure of how they create.
Yes. Wow. So it's the difference between an off-the-rack suit of optimization,
correct,
and a tailor-made.
That's right.
So hopefully you don't have to take things out.
Yeah, right.
But a tailor-made is tailored for you and your situation, and there's no, from my experience, there's no situation or client that's exactly the same.
No, there's not.
So there's no mold that we use at Kingdom ROI and say, okay, everybody fits into this cookie cutter mold.
Yep. No.
Which is why we go through all the questioning and clarifying of desires and ideals and desired impact of what they.
Well, I mean, I always joke all the time. I think our teams that work on this project, I'm like, they're just putting puzzles together without any cover to the box. And so the interviews and the conversations are like, paint me the cover of the box so I can put this puzzle together for you. And continually reflecting it back to him. Did we get the cover right? Did we get the cover right? Does this cover look right? Okay, then we're going to go put the puzzle together for you. And that type of optimization, a cover put together based on a 100-year vision, and the relationships of the people that matter to me, is this. You know what we didn't say? That's a great tangent. Do you know what's wrong with most of the world and their optimization? They're putting pieces together without any plan for the cover of the box.
Wow.
No one ever talks about what the cover of the box looks like. If they do, then what they're looking at is, let's think of an entire box cover as 100+ years. Then what they're doing is they're looking at this little corner piece right here, and the 50 years you're going to be building wealth. We're going to focus on these years right here, rather than the entire picture of the box. The majority of the industry is just like, okay, so we'll help you build the corner. And then not realizing that, well, because you use this piece and this piece here, it may look like it fit, but actually this piece goes over here, but you didn't realize that because you weren't looking at the whole picture.
Wow. And there's a real cost.
Oh, there's a real cost.
There's a real cost to not having an advocate that's in tune with the relationships, the optimization, and the impact that you want to have.
Yep. Absolutely.
It will cost you a lot. So what's the potential cost of that in light of this great wealth heist?
Well, I mean, I think it's different for every single person. When we run through the map, we actually show them the cost. I mean, it could be that we've seen cost as low as excess capital gains taxes on a sale of a business. And the number one problem with that is every dollar you pay in tax is a dollar you can never get back and never use again. Right? It could be the cost of wisdom being passed in a lifetime inheritance, meaning if you've built an entire plan that says, well, I'm just going to leave an inheritance after I pass away, it's all the wisdom and all the opportunities that if you had an advocate who was helping you walk alongside those relationships with your kids, it's like, hey, we're going to do this for an inheritance right now. Okay, so here's how you coach them through that. Here's how you talk them through that. Here's how you build your relationship inside of that, and watch that outcome and the amount of wisdom and everything that's passed in that, which then becomes a building block for that child or adult child, right? I mean, to now grow into being able to steward and manage more because you were there to walk alongside them, as opposed to you threw a pile of money in their lap after they didn't need it anymore because they were too old, or, after you were gone and you can't walk or counsel them through them. I mean, that's just two examples of things that can happen during a lifetime. They keep raising it, but for a lot of the families that we work with who are still going to have estate tax problems, estate taxes, excess taxes there are just so many different costs. It's why we do the abundance and impact map, is because inside of that map, we actually go in and we say, here's your cost here, and here's your cost here. So people can kind of see what the cost of the inaction potentially is.
That's so awesome. And it's so beautiful to see when people get that vision for the lifetime inheritance, to be able to be present, to pass along wisdom and that knowledge. And it's so cool to see our clients do that. So I just want to say right now, I have to say this to the camera, you're getting all this free knowledge. And I want to encourage you to evaluate and ask yourself the tough questions. Do I truly have an advocate? Do I have an advocate that is in tune with my present day, but it's helping me bring clarity to the 100+ years? Do I have an advocate that is willing to even come against me a little bit and challenge me to not just check the box, but hey, we need to sit down and have a conversation because things are changing, which may impact the plan that we previously had. Everyone needs an advocate. And like I said, this advocate helps you avoid this $80 to $100 trillion wealth heist that's happening right now that could be robbing you and your family and the next generations of your family. So why just give that away? There's a real cost to an action. So we want to challenge you. We want to challenge you to take action. And a simple action step, we're going to give it to you right now. No cost. We're going to give this away to them free. Can I make a free offer?
You can go ahead. Make a free offer.
Like and subscribe and share this video with your friends. You want some advocacy, some free advocacy? Listen to the Kingdom ROI podcast and follow all the channels of our companies. And you can find that down in the link. We'll have our producer put that on there for you. So this has been another episode of the Kingdom ROI podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day.
Blessings.